Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to this video. In this one, I'm going to go over what I consider my top 5 essential tips and tricks for using a Sandevistan in Cyberpunk 2077. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe. I sure would appreciate it. I'm going to also do something a little bit different in this video. I'm actually just going to record while I play. So bear with me if it's not exactly a perfect run, but I did this run in my video before this one, so hopefully I should still have it memorized for the most part. But that way it'll seem a little more authentic, and also it should be easier to edit as well. So first let's go over the build. So I'll leave a link to this outfit down below in the description. And for my weapons in this one, they're not hugely important. You can basically use any silenced pistol you like. Again, I use a Sandy for stealth, so I go with a silenced pistol. In this case, I'm going with a Unity. I also run a Tamayura here a lot as well. For the katana, I'm going with the Errata, frankly, just because it looks cool in videos. But if you want the be-all, end-all for a Sandy, then I would either go with the Byakko or the Scalpel. The Byakko is going to be faster attack speed once you kill the first enemy, and then the Scalpel is going to have more crit damage and will be better for bosses. For my throwing melee, I'm going with the Agauo just because this mission is in Phantom Liberty, or is in Dogtown, and so I recently obtained this. I also go with the tier 5 punk knife here as well, but any throwing knife or any kind of throwing weapon will work here. That's totally up to you. For cyberware, I'm going with the Agauo Sandevistan, which I will talk about in just a little bit more detail later. For this one, I'm going with the Manus blades. I also like to switch this up and use gorilla arms as seen in a lot of my other videos. For this build, I'm using the handle wrap. The optical camo, I always use the optical camo just because I consider that what's kind of the Ghost Sandevistan, if you will. It basically, when you run the camo plus the Sandy and then add in the Kariznikov as well, it basically can make you pretty much invisible for the most part. And then down here I just have the standard blood pump. Let's go over the cyberware real quick. This is a New Game Plus build, which is why you'll see some things like my carrying capacity be crazy up here. I just haven't broken down anything in a while because I don't really need to. A New Game Plus build will let you keep picking up capacity shards, so it'll make that go crazy high. It'll also increase the cyberware if you keep picking up capacity shards there as well. But I think 356 is pretty reasonable for most builds or for most players. This is a level 60 build, obviously, and I'll discuss some things along the way to where what we can do earlier in the game. I did also do an in-depth build video on this earlier, so I'll try not to repeat a lot of what was said in that one, but some of it will unfortunately get repeated, so bear with me there. For frontal cortex, I go with the axolotl, which is a no-brainer, and that's just going to give you that reduced cooldown and bonus stealth damage as well. For the early game, you're going to want to go with Newton module, but once you get the ability to get axolotl, which I think is around level 30, 35, don't quote me on that, but it's around there, then you definitely want to switch to axolotl. For this build, I'm going with the Kariznikov boost system. As I said in the previous video, you can also substitute that with Quantum Tuner if you have the cyberware capacity, but you see it does cost quite a bit up here. It adds 42 to it. So for everyone's sake to be able to use this, we'll go ahead and go with the Kariznikov. I always use self-ice just because one, it will cut down on me getting traced, and it will also negate an enemy trace as well. So that's the main reason I use it, especially if you're going to be fighting, groups of enemies that can cripple you or use that cripple movement, and then they can just basically eliminate you real easy. For the OS, I am going with the Agauo Sandy. You can also use the Falcon here. Either one will work. It's totally up to you. The Agauo is a little better for stealth in terms of headshots because you got crit damage and headshot damage, whereas the Falcon lasts a little bit longer, but then you don't have as much crit damage, and it doesn't quite slow time by as much. It slows it by 70%, and whereas the Agauo slows by 85%, but doesn't last as long. So either one of those will work, totally up to you. For the arms, as I said, I went with the Max Attack Mantis blades in this build. Face, not really important, but I went with the Kuroshi Sentry optics here. For skeleton, I went with the Robber Avis just for the armor that it provides. I went with the Dense Marrow, which is essential because it gives you more melee damage, and using this Sandy build, you're going to be using melee a lot. And then I also went with the Epimorphic Skeleton just for extra armor as well. For hands, I basically wanted to pick 2 so I can fill out all the cyberware capacity, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I went with the handle wrap, and then this one is just so that slot's filled. Handle wrap because I use throwing weapons, and that will give more crit chance with those throwable weapons. For my nervous system, looks like I can upgrade the stabber, but I went with the Korenzakov here, the stabber, and the visual cortex support. And I think I made a little mistake earlier. I said I went with the Korenzakov in that other system. That would have been the Korenzakov boost. This is the Korenzakov itself. So those two synergize well together. So I just made sure that I use them together as well. There you go. Korenzakov boost. And then Korenzakov. Right there. Going on to circulatory system, micro rotors. You have to use these because they increase your melee attack speed. And then I use blood pump and biomonitor just because I don't like having to manually take the health items. Already went over nervous system. Integumentary system, I go with the optical camo, as I stated before, just mainly so it will keep you invisible, especially for those times when you're not actually using the Sandy. But then if you are using the Sandy and you're still getting detected, popping this before you use the Sandy will basically make it impossible for the enemies to see you. And I also go with chitin just for more armor, and cellular adapter for armor as well. And both of these are Phantom Liberty dependent, so if you don't have Phantom Liberty, then you'll need to substitute these with something else. But I mean, you can use subdermal armor if you like, or pain inducer, whichever one you have. But these are the two I like to use. For legs, I go with reinforced tendons just because I like the mobility that they provide. That's what I always use. And I think that's it for that. Going over the attributes and the perks, I go with 20 in these top 3, body, reflexes, and technical. I go with 18 in cool and then 3 in intel. You can swap body and cool if you want to make adjustments here. If you want to be a little more stealthy, you can go with 20 in cool and 18 in body, and that's totally fine. These two you have to have 20 in, though, for this build. For reflexes, I'm not going to go through each one. I will just let you pause it and copy down. But basically, the whole middle tree, most of the right tree for the blades, and then the stunt jock perk. This is obviously optional if you don't want to use that and you want to use something else somewhere else. I have not counted these to make sure I'm staying within the limit for non-New Game Plus builds, but I believe I am at last count. But somebody let me know in the comments if I've gone over, and then we can talk about where you can make adjustments. But I do try to make sure I stay within the limit. For technical ability, basically the middle tier minus a couple of these, and then just these over here to boost your health and to boost your overall survivability. For cool, as I discussed before in that previous video, if you wanted to make this 20 and then go all the way up into here or all the way up into here, that's totally fine. You can do that. I choose to use knives and pistols, so I kind of use a combination of both. Just be sure to get this middle part right here. These will help you be a lot more stealthy, as well as this bottom right as well. Intel, we don't need anything. For the relic, you'll eventually fill up all of this once you complete Phantom Liberty, or the further you get along with Phantom Liberty. But for this build, just choose whichever of these goes with the hands that you're using. Since I'm going with Mantis Blades, I went to spatial mapping in this part. And then I also do like vulnerability analytics for the shooting the weak spots, and then emergency cloaking just in case you do get spotted. You can activate that during combat, and it'll basically make them not see you anymore most of the time. All right, and that is it for the build. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about which sandy to use. Again, I go with the Apogee. You can use the Falcon as well. I want to talk a little bit about how and the reason you want to go with those is because you can turn them on and off. That's the main reason. None of the other sandies you can turn on. You can't turn any of the other ones on and off. You have to turn them on and then use them, and then wait for them to cool down again, and then use them again. And you'll have to do that until you reach around level 30. And keep in mind, if you're new to the game, basically any build is going to be a little bit weak in the beginning, and you're going to have to kind of slog through it until you reach around level 30, and then you'll just start becoming overpowered. But that's basically with any build, this one included. So early game, you can go with like the Dylanar, I believe it's called, or Dynalar, one of those two. You can go with that sandy earlier in the game until you can get Falcon at around level 30, and then Apogee at level 40, I believe. So you can also just use Falcon the whole time if you want to save a little bit of cyberware. For the way I use the sandy is I have the right mouse button set up as the one to activate my sandy, and I have the other right mouse button to activate dodge and dash. So there's my sandy. I can turn it on and off, and then right next to it I have the dodge and dash. So it's a real easy flip back and forth between my thumb for the sandy and the dodge and dash. So that's just another tip. And then when I'm using the sandy, I use the X button, and obviously I'm using a keyboard and mouse. I use the X button to do this scanning because you don't really have to do it that much while you're using a sandy. When I go to net running, then I flip those around, and then I use that same button that I would use the sandy for now as my scanning button. So anyway, that's just a little something I do. Do whatever makes you comfortable there. But let's go on with a few of these tips. I don't know exactly where all these enemies will be. Hopefully they're kind of in the same place they were in the build. There we go. All right. So first tip is, and I'll pause every once in a while. First tip is dealing with cameras. One of the comments I see a lot is that they don't run a sandy because they hate dealing with cameras, whereas in a Netrunner build you can just turn them off using your quick hacks. And that's a totally legit argument. There are basically three things you can do for cameras. One, you can just run up to them and turn them off, which I'll do with this one. Just like that. I'll keep the sandy on and then kill this guy, and then we'll pause again. And then the next thing you can do, and that's probably, I would say, the best option, because you can just keep moving and it won't alert the enemies at all. So they won't, as you can hear, nobody's looking for me or anything like that. Nobody's saying, oh, where's this guy at? The next option, let me deal with this guy real quick. There we go. The next option is to shoot the camera, which I'll do here.
Pathetic.
But see, now you can hear that lady over there looking for me. I don't think the silencer gets heard, but I think when I shoot the camera, the bullet hitting the camera gets heard. So you can tell that they're kind of looking for you. They don't know where you are, but so that's the next best, or I should say the last option is to shoot the camera. The one before that, in between, would be to find the camera console and then just turn them off that way. So I'm going to deal with this lady. And then I'll shoot that one. All right, and then so for the next tip is going to be using a sandy basically to line up headshots, or to use it as kind of well, what it is for is it's just slowing down time, and to use it to line up headshots and use it as a sniping tool. So that one, I'm going to shoot her, line up the headshot, shoot him, and then there's another one here, line up the headshot. And say I dealt with all three of those just basically by lining up a headshot. This guy. Uh-oh, he's further away. He was a little further away than he was in the last video. Alright, so the next one, let's see, the next tip is going to be basically using it for takedowns, but I'll need to do some things to get to that. And we're going to line that up as a headshot. Line up that headshot. See how easy that is? Alright, so this one, I'm going to use the stealth to... Oops. Come on. There we go. I'm basically going to use the stealth, the Sandy, to take this guy down. And it's nearly 100% if you use the Sandy to come up behind him. And he's a skull enemy, so he wouldn't normally go down with a headshot. So I'll activate the Sandy. I'll even hit emergency, or I mean optical camo. And then see, you can run right up behind him and just take him down. And I still have optical camo activated. So I'm going to shoot this camera. I think there's another guy over here somewhere, but I might have shot him. So we got that guy there, so I'll run up behind him as well. Activate the Sandy. Just run up behind him. I'm going to come over here because those turrets are in the way. I don't want to get them. That turret almost activated. But that's going to be the next one, is dealing with turrets. So I'm going to take this gun off. Basically do the same thing. Activate the Sandy. And you can dash at the same time. Override that turret. Come and override this turret. And then there you go. Now those turrets are no longer activated. And then the next one is just going to be dealing with multiple enemies. I don't have my HUD on. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. So see in the bottom left, you can see it refilling there. I usually don't play with the HUD just because I like to keep it more immersive and it makes for better videos as well. But now that it's built back up, you can hear the sound too. I just turn it off. That's a mod, by the way, to turn your HUD on and off. So that you can get that on Nexus mods if you like. So the next one is just dealing with multiple enemies. I'll put the melee into play by using the Errata. I'll just activate the Sandy, and then you can just come in here. And even if we got... And now I'll turn that off. So see, even though we got detected there for a second, we eliminated them so quick that it didn't matter, and then we even just turned the camera off as well. So let me show a couple of other maneuvers on how to deal with multiple enemies. So far we've gone over cameras, we've gone over how to snipe, we've gone over using it for stealth takedowns, and then dealing with multiple enemies. And I'll just show one or two other tricks here, and then that'll basically do it for this. Be sure you're subscribed if you like this kind of content. I'm going to try to start doing more of this narrating type content because, one, it just gets more views, and I think just it helps people a lot more rather than just watching me play. There's usually two people there, but again, we'll just line up that headshot by using the Sandy. You can take this camera out, but it will... See, now they're alerted. Whereas if you ran up underneath it and shut it off, or went into the console room, they wouldn't be alerted. There we go. We'll just run behind this guy. He was going to get alerted, so now I'll activate. And see, now that I activate optical camo, none of them can see me, and I can just snipe them all. I'm not going to headshot that guy because he's a skull enemy. I've already dealt with that camera. I'm probably going to get detected here. Yeah. Thought I probably would. That's alright though. I'll just deal with those. If I had optical camo still available, I could get that and disappear, but now we'll just deal with these guys. Yep, see, I activated optical camo, and now using that that relic tree perk, they can't see me anymore. So as you can see, how easy just running up behind them and knocking them out like that, or killing them like that is. But that's basically it for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Just going over what we went through again. Again, we went through the build. We went through how to turn off cameras, how to shoot them, and then also go to the camera console. We didn't show that, but you pretty much know what that is. We showed how to snipe and line up headshots. We used it for stealth takedowns. Showed you how to deal with multiple enemies, and then we also talked about kind of how I lay out my mouse and use the Sandy as well. If you got any other questions, be sure to put them in the comments. I sure appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the next one.